How easy is it?
Chop that. I want to get better from here.
You know that Derry and Lynn like to play golf.
No. What?
No, not at all.
Brand new information.
This driving and puttering around, they do that a lot. Diane and I played golf with them a couple of times. I haven't played since. I don't intend to. The first time we went with him, we blew the engine out of my Explorer. The last time we played with him down in Phoenix, Derry made me play off the front tees with Lynn. She beat me by 10 strokes. I can't afford a new engine, and I can't take the embarrassment of playing off the front tees again and getting beat by another lady.
Another lady? Another lady?
Yeah, another lady. Derry and Lynn put on the agenda for tonight. They put this program together, and one of the things they put on there was George to give in bold and underlined mini sermon. So I'm going to attempt to do that tonight. Here we are, the privileged few invited by two great people to come and spend this time to celebrate a 30th anniversary, which is really something to celebrate these days. And so it's with that we come in mind here. Back in August of 1981, they stood before the congregation of the church, and many of you are here and would remember that. And as you recall it, you remember that they stood there and they made their vows as a husband and wife. They made promise to one another of mutual support and undying love. A lifelong covenant until death do us part. It was back and they meant that. Then they signed all the legal documents that the province of Alberta requires. Darren and Maureen probably got to sign on those pages too, as if it was that kind of a thing. And the minister pronounced them husband and wife. Kissed the bride and introduced them as Derry, Mr. and Mrs. McFarland for the first time as they walked down the hall. For those who were there, the memories of that, well, that's a special time. Some of you, you're smiling lots tonight. Some of you will smile about some of the memories just about you think about that special day. Some of you looked in a book back there and I'm sure you looked at that and said, smiled and said, wow. Some of you laugh a little bit and remember some of the stories. Darren could tell us probably some more later on open mic.
No, he's off.
Others of you might shed a little tear. Maybe the moms and dads would remember as these two kids drove off alone on their honeymoon in a car. Just two kids. Just two kids on the happiest day of their life. Not having a clue what was going to happen. Not even be able to imagine what would take place between then and today. And yet, full of smiles and expectations. We all know that a nice ceremony, a big, happy, fun day, and a good honeymoon does not make a marriage. It's working it out from that time forward. So just what is marriage? What is it that drives us, most of us anyway, to want to be married to someone for the rest of our lives? What is that? What is it that makes us want to do that? Let's talk a little bit about that. Marriage is not simply a commitment. We talk about making commitments, we talk about recommitting. Marriage is not simply a commitment. Commitments are made between two imperfect people, and if you're as imperfect as me, you've been so many commitments that you've broken in your lifetime for one reason or another, that it's got to be more than that. Marriage is more than a contract. Marriage is more than signing our page in the dotted line and saying, these are the things that we agree on. These are the things that we will do, and our marriage will be like. This is the agreement between the two of us. It's more than that. Those kind of things say, when one fails, this is what we will do to settle up. Marriage is not just a commitment or just a contract. Marriage is a covenant, a relationship that was originally established by God, that requires the grace of God to be everything that it was meant to be by Him. It is the joining of two people in body and in soul, and perhaps most importantly, in spirit. Marriage was God's idea. And if I may say so, having been married for almost 42 years now, it was a good idea. It was a good idea. When I get to be 55 years married like these folks, it will still be a good idea. Not simple, not easy, but God's idea. If we read in Genesis, we say, God says, let us make man in our own image, in our likeness. And so He created them. He created man in His own image, male and female He created them. And then He said, for this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Therein lies one of the mysteries of life. How is it that a man and a woman, a male and female, so different from one another, so weird to one another, and yet they get married, and yet God's Word says that they will become one flesh. How does two so different become one? That's what marriage is about. Is that growing together from two to one as time goes by. I don't believe it happens instantaneously, but that's God's plan for marriage. And that's what we're celebrating here tonight. Let us just set the stage for marriage as God originally intended it. God had made Adam. And one of the first jobs He gave him was He said, I want you to sit down in the garden and name all the animals. And there's Adam. Can't you just see him? He's leaning up against some kind of tree in this beautiful garden, and he's saying, I'm going to name all these animals. That's my job. And he watches this thing come by, and it comes running by, and it's going in circles, and it's screaming, and it's yelling. And he says, I'm going to call that thing an orangutan. A little while later, another animal walks by, and it's a big cat. And he looks at it, and he says, this cat's walking by like he owns the place. And he says, I'm going to call him a lion. And then another big animal came by, and it was an ugly old thing. Short legs and big body and mouth that was so wide. And he says, hippopotamus. And God saw all this going on. And He said, there's something missing in this scene. There's not a mate that is suitable for the man that I've created. I need to make someone that will stand alongside that man and help him to be all that he can be. And so He put Adam to sleep. And we don't know how long Adam slept, but we know this, that when he woke up, he had a pain in his side.
Not you, honey.
But as he caught it, as his eyes woke up, he looked in front, and all the pain suddenly went away. There, standing in front of him, was Eve. This is before fig leaves. There was Eve. And he looked at her, and he saw that flaming red hair. And he saw that beautiful face, smiling back at him as only that face can smile. And he saw that body, all soft, and not much hair. You could argue that Derry wanted it. And not much hair. And then he noticed all those curves. You know what? I'm not so sure that he noticed all those things in that particular order. Now we don't know. And he looked at that, and he knew what his job was. And he said, whoa, man! And so it was. And it wasn't long. It wasn't long that we see that until he got back and he named the rest of the animals. And then what we see is that it wasn't long before something went wrong in that relationship. And pretty soon, they were no longer living in paradise. And our marriages are just like that. We begin, and it seems like paradise for a while. It seems like paradise, but over time, those differences seem to cause problems. And the paradise that we saw seemed somewhere distant, perhaps, or maybe just a glimmer in our imagination of what we thought it might be in the first place. We get married because of the differences. We get married for that. But after marriages, the differences that attracted us to each other in the first place begin to cause distress in our marriage, and they don't seem quite so pleasant or exciting anymore. And if we allow them to do it, they can become irreconcilable differences. That's a terminology we hear all too often these days. We must learn to celebrate the difference.